guys, Priyanka here from 3D Aesthetics, and I want to welcome you all back to my channel where I talk about different issues on wellness, including mental health, physical fitness, nutrition, sports, different things like that. So today's topic is on suicide prevention. So for those of you who don't know, this month of September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So what does this mean? Around the world, individuals everywhere are sharing more tips and creating more awareness on preventing suicide amongst our individuals in the world. Suicide is something that can affect anyone. It doesn't matter your age, gender, race, or your background. It can affect anyone at any point of time in their lives. So today I'm going to share with you guys some tips on things like what you can do if you know someone who is having suicidal thoughts, or if you're worried about someone being suicidal, if you yourself are dealing with personal struggles that you realize are making you feel suicidal or depressed. And finally, some statistics on research that was done to show the most common groups of individuals who may be suffering from suicidal thoughts and some of the reasons why. So you can be a little bit more aware of any individuals you may know who might fall into this category. So I'm going to be reading a little bit on some research that I did and some information I'm gathering for a short article. As most of you would know, I also write brief articles on various different topics around wellness. Further to that, I will be posting some links below in the description on some crisis hotlines and different resources that you can use for anyone who may be struggling with suicidal thoughts. So stay tuned, and I hope everyone can benefit from the information that is provided. So as I said before, suicidal thought, much like a mental health condition, can affect anyone. It doesn't matter what your age or gender is, or where you come from, how you were raised, etc. Right? In fact, according to research, suicide is often the result of an untreated mental health condition. So another thing that's important to note is that suicidal thoughts, although they are very common, it is not normal to have suicidal thoughts. It often actually indicates a more serious issue. So there's always a root to the problem. There's always something that's happening in an individual's life to lead them to the point of having suicidal thoughts, or the point of wanting to take their own life. Every year, thousands of individuals die by suicide, leaving behind their friends and family, often with unanswered questions and no means of closure. This month of September, the month of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, is used to reach out to those affected by suicide, their families, friends, and also those who are also dealing with suicidal thoughts, to raise awareness and connect individuals with suicide ideation to treatment services. It's also important to ensure that individuals, friends, and families have access to the resources that they need in order to discuss suicide prevention, which is why I will be sharing links below for resources that you all can use for suicide prevention. One of the things I'm going to talk about is the connection now between the coronavirus pandemic and suicide. So when the coronavirus pandemic affected everyone's lives, or it started to affect everyone's lives, it introduced new social distancing requirements, public health challenges, and social unrest. Almost overnight, school, social activities, and work were all pushed online. It's too early, and we would all realize that it's way too early to understand the lasting effects of these adjustments that were made, and because we just don't know when it's going to end. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention actually showed results that 41% of the respondents of a survey they did are actually struggling with mental health issues stemming specifically from the pandemic. Both of these factors are related to the coronavirus pandemic itself, as well as the measures put in place to contain it, including things like physical distancing and stay-at-home orders. And the research shows that a big part of this is because individuals who may have found a coping mechanism in socializing and being around their friends and family, taking part in different activities, whether it may be sports or social groups that they may have been in, and being around people, if that was their coping mechanism, then these new restrictions that are being put in place will definitely affect their ability to cope with some of the difficulties that they're dealing with. Things that we take for granted are now changed in such a drastic way, and we are failing to realize how much it is affecting individuals around us. Another thing is racism. In this age of racial reckoning, new research findings actually indicate that racial discrimination is also so painful that it is linked to the ability to die by suicide. Individuals are actually taking their own lives because of being faced with discrimination. So these are just a couple things to be aware of, things to consider when you are dealing with individuals and being able to empathize with them on things they may be dealing with. Moving on, a common misconception associated with suicide is that suicidal thoughts are uncommon, that suicidal attempts signal that someone cannot be helped, but that's not true. A lot of individuals go on to live a happy, joyous lifestyle and a full life, while others continue to struggle with suicidal thoughts. At the end of the day, they are all still surviving. Some of them have found ways to cope with the underlying pain and to get through the hard days that we all have. Some people have found a way to recognize when they need to ask for help, but some individuals are also still struggling with seeking out help from others. The things that you may be thinking or feeling are what I will list here. The pain seems overwhelming and unbearable. You feel hopeless. You feel like there's no point in living. You are consumed by negative and disturbing thoughts. You cannot imagine any solution to your problems other than suicide. You may imagine death as a relief. You think that everyone would be better off without you. You feel worthless. You feel very lonely, even when you're around friends or family. Or you just simply don't understand why you are thinking or feeling this way. It simply just doesn't make sense. So if any of those are thoughts that you may be having from time to time, some things that you need to remember: you are not alone. Many other people have gone through what you are going through now and are alive today. It's okay to talk about suicide. It can even help you to feel better. Having an episode of self-harm or suicidal thoughts or plans is a sign of severe emotional distress, perhaps the loss of a loved one, the loss of employment, a relationship ending, or experiencing violence or abuse. Very important to note is you are not to be blamed. It can happen to anyone, and there are always people who can help you. So what can you do? Talk to a trusted family member, friend, or colleague about how you feel. If you think that you're in immediate danger of harming yourself, talk to a trusted family member, friend, or colleague about how you are feeling. If you think you're in immediate danger, reach out to the emergency services or a crisis hotline. If you practice religion, reach out to someone from your religious community about how you feel. Join a self-help or support group for people who lived with experiences or self-harm. You can always help each other to feel better. Another thing that I would like to mention is my Coffee Chat Forum is currently free for the month of September. My Coffee Chat Forum is a form of text therapy for individuals who suffer with emotional distress and need someone to talk to help you find different techniques and strategies to deal with whatever struggles you are going through. My next point is for individuals who think you might know someone who is considering suicide. What you should know if you are worried about someone. Suicides are preventable. It is okay to talk about suicide. Asking about suicide does not provoke the act of suicide. It often reduces anxiety and helps people feel understood. So some of the warning signs that someone may be seriously thinking about suicide are saying things like they're threatening to kill themselves, saying things like no one will miss me when I'm gone, seeking access to harmful substances, saying goodbye to close friends or family members, giving away valued possessions, or even writing a will. Who is at risk of suicide? Research shows that people who have previously tried to take their life, someone who is suffering from depression or an alcohol or drug problem, those who are suffering from emotional distress, for example, the loss of a loved one or a relationship breakup, people suffering from chronic pain or illness, people who have experienced war, violence, trauma, abuse, or discrimination, or those who are socially isolated. Now, what can you do? Find an appropriate time and a quiet place to talk about suicide with the person you are worried about. Let them know that you're there to listen. Encourage them to seek help from a professional, whether it's a doctor, a mental health professional, counselor, or a social worker. Offer to accompany them to an appointment, but don't force your presence. They may feel more comfortable going alone. If you think the person is in immediate danger, do not leave him or her alone. Seek professional help from the emergency services, a crisis hotline, or a healthcare professional, or turn to a family member. If the person you are worried about lives with you, ensure that they don't have access to any harmful substances. Check in often to see how the person is doing. Finally, I would just like to remind you all that my coffee chat forum is free for the month of September for anyone who needs to reach out about any difficulties they are experiencing at the time. It doesn't even have to be about suicide, it can be about any sort of emotional distress you are experiencing. So, my message to you this month is to stay strong, and when in doubt, reach out. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment below and share any information that you would like to that can help an individual in need. Always remember, you can go the distance.